Thank you for taking the time to join us as we talk about changes in supply. While we were writing this concept, my dad constantly emphasized that this is real life stuff. These are things that business owners deal with every day. I was constantly intrigued by the number of examples that he shared with me of how events in his business life affected his supply curve. So I thought it would be interesting today to sit down with him and ask some questions so that he could share some of these examples with you. So, Dad, how long did you own Triangle Financial Services?
28 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is. I'm old. What can I say?
And what business were you in?
Triangle Financial Services was a mortgage brokerage firm. And basically, the business that we were in is we assisted people in securing residential and commercial mortgages.
Can you expand a little bit more on what a mortgage brokerage firm is?
Yeah, sure. Our responsibilities were to assist our customers, number one, counsel them in terms of what the best option was available. Secondly, to package their loan in such a way that we could get the financing for them. And finally, to find the best rate we possibly could for them.
I bet you saw many changes during the period of time that you were in business.
Oh, yeah. But, that's not the mortgage brokerage business. That's any business. 28 years is a long period of time.
Did any of these changes impact your supply curve?
Absolutely. Now, I'd be lying if I told you I knew exactly at the time what our supply curve looked like and how many mortgages we would offer at a given price. That's not the point. The point is that there were definite changes which impacted our supply curve, and we certainly would provide, if we're paid less, we would provide less than if we were paid more. So the law of supply still stands. There's no doubt about it.
Could you give us a couple of examples?
I could give you a bunch of examples, but probably the one that most of us can understand the best is the technological changes, because over 28 years, we saw just an incredible number of changes in technology. When I first started, okay, you had the big computers, and no such thing as a laptop, and actually most people that own their own business would have a secretary, and as word processing software started to become more sophisticated, you could replace a lot of your employees with, and not replace them, you could get rid of them, frankly. And of course that was tremendous savings. And then you started running into a lot of the technological changes concerning communication, whether it be Federal Express. We could now get a package out, the next day. We wouldn't have to wait for the mail. And that saved time. And of course, when you're a businessman, time is money. Then the internet came along, and man, that was like candy. We could get immediate responses, and it was all automated, so that we could get loans approved almost instantaneously. We certainly reduced our expense in terms of freight. So all of these changes, these technological changes, they reduced our cost of doing business because they reduced the time to process a loan. And anytime you reduce your cost, of course, your supply curve shifts to the right. And there's no doubt about it, our supply curve shifted to the right.
You talked a lot about these technological changes and how they led to a reduction in your costs. Were there any changes that you can think of that led to an increase in your costs?
Yeah, there are probably a few, but the one that really comes to mind, Hannah, is the regulations. There's no doubt that in our industry, it's become much more highly regulated than it was 28, 30 years ago. And those regulations, every time there's a change in the regulations, there's an additional cost. That might be additional paperwork. It might be additional education. It might be additional fees. Whatever it is, there's an additional cost. And I'm not making a judgment in terms of whether that's right or wrong, but the fact is that when there is an increase in regulation, there's an increase in the costs.
What would you say is the number one impact on your supply curve?
Well, our industry, everybody always says it kind of goes back and forth like a pendulum. And when rates are low, basically the volume is great. But it's not only that. and this is what really impacts supply more than anything else. It's the attitude of the lenders, okay? If lenders are, like right now, lenders are pretty tight with the money. They really scrutinize loans much more closely. So it takes a better quality borrower to get a loan, okay? And so as a result, the supply of loans has diminished. It's gone basically to the left. And in addition to that, our costs have gone up as a result of this because we have to process, or we have to look at more candidates for loans to get a mortgage than we did, let's say, several years ago when things were great, okay, and you didn't even need to document your income to get a loan, all right, and so it was much easier to get a loan, and so the cost and the efficiency was much greater.
Well, it sure sounds like there were some interesting changes in the number and type of firms in your industry.
Absolutely, and when times were good, it attracted so many new firms to the industry because there weren't that many barriers to entry. Industry fairly well. It was certainly treated us well, and so it was a fairly lucrative industry to be in, and so a lot of people got in. Okay, but then when these lenders start getting a little bit tighter in terms of their loans, we saw a lot of people get out. And so there's a lot of flow back and forth in terms of the number of firms that enter into the industry. So yeah, there's definitely been a flow back and forth in terms of the supply of firms entering the industry.
Well, thanks so much, Dad, for taking the time to share these examples with us and with our viewers. And it sure sounds like there are a lot of variables that impacted your ability and willingness to supply a mortgage.
There's certainly, when you look at all of the different things that impact the supply curve, most of them basically impacted us. To learn more about this lesson and other important economic concepts, please visit our website at higherrockeducation.com. Thank you.